Prepare for a true revolution.
Actually, you can prove God exists.
Questioning tradition, because what you've been taught isn't always true.
The truth will set you.
Welcome to Truth Revolution. This is where faith and reason coexist. I'm Dave, and with me is Jeff. He's the pastor at Revolution Church.
Hey, I'm glad to be here too. And wishing all of you guys a great Sunday. Hope you're going to come out to Revolution Church if you don't already have a church home.
Yes.
I know a lot of you, we hear from a lot of you, listen to the show as you get ready for church, or you know what? Some of you are listening on the news station in Salina, Kansas, 92.7. You're hearing us at 92.7 at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, so we're really glad you're with us. We believe in God, but we also believe in science and religion and rationale and the mind and Jesus.
Right. Yeah, logic and faith can totally exist together.
Oh, yeah.
There's some people out there, and it's people actually on both sides are guilty of discrediting that union. You know what I mean? Some people say, oh, well, if you're going to believe in faith, you can't be logical. But if you're going to be logical, you can't think about all that spiritual mumbo-jumbo stuff.
And we think it's pretty clear. You can do both. And this show is all about that. So last week we started the question of how do we know that Jesus is actually the Messiah, and how do we know the Bible's true?
Right.
Like, how do we know it's from God?
Yeah. And we've been through a lot of the prophecy stuff.
We started with what we call messianic prophecies. And so we looked at these prophecies that were written hundreds of years before Jesus and show that he followed them through. He met every single one of them. So you got to get a truthrevolution.tv. That's our website.
Yep. That's truthrevolution.tv.
And what are they going to do there?
They can actually listen to past shows. They can listen to the show from last week.
Yeah.
Which is actually part A for this show.
So
this is kind of part B.
This is part B. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the prophecies, but we're going to show you why they're important. We're also going to get into why we trust the Bible. And there's some math involved. This is you didn't know there was math involved in religion, did you? But I'm not talking Powerball math. I'm talking mathy math.
Mathy math?
Yeah.
Nice.
All right. So this is kind of where we left off. We talked about Isaiah 53 and how the Jews said that was all about the Messiah.
Right.
And then when Jesus fulfilled all of Isaiah 53, they were like, whoa.
They flipped the script.
This is not about the Messiah. This is about the nation of Israel.
Right.
But then we got down. I wanted to get into Zechariah 12:10, which says this.
They will look on me, the one they have pierced.
Okay, now, this was a prophecy about the Messiah, that they were going to look upon the one they had pierced, which, of course, is like, okay, well, you're going to pierce my heart. What? You're going to make me sad? Is that what it means? No, like, literally, he was pierced.
Right.
It was literal.
Right. There was, there were several different ways he was pierced. He's pierced in both hands, both feet, pierced in the side.
That's right.
And think about how many times he was pierced with that thorn of crowns on his head. You know? I mean, he was just totally pierced all over the place.
That candy corn thorn of crowns is awful. All right. So, and then also in Psalm 22 and John 19, we see predictions of what, Dave?
The casting of the lots for his garments.
Gambling. They were gambling for his clothes. And that was predicted. Now, this is important because it was predicted hundreds of years in advance that the Messiah would die and that the people would gamble for his clothing.
Right.
Now, this isn't something you can make happen, right?
Right. You would actually have to this would have to be something that was done really close to the time that Jesus was crucified.
Hey, guys.
You'd have to get the guys together. It's like, hey, I tell you what, we're going to write in this book that we're going to gamble for his clothes. And so when we get there and we get him up on the cross and we get him all nailed in and stuff like that, let's go ahead and start casting lots for his clothes. That way we can fulfill the prophecy.
And the dumbest thing about that is not only that they have to do this little scenario, is that it was the Roman soldiers who were crucifying him who gambled for his clothes.
So they had absolutely no stake in fulfilling any prophecy whatsoever.
They probably didn't even know what the prophecies were. And even if they did, they certainly would not have done it on purpose.
Right.
They were trying to kill him. So, all right, but he fulfilled this prophecy. Now, compare that to our what makes it miraculous list, okay? Because last week we said prophecies have to be miraculous, okay? They can't just be like a scientific prediction, right? You can't say, oh, Halley's Comet is going to come back in 70 years or whatever it is, right? That's not a prophecy. That's a scientific prediction.
Right. Number one, it has to be more than a vague guess or conjecture.
Okay, and so predicting that someone would be killed by a government and that the government and that people would gamble for the clothing, That's not a vague guess.
That's not vague at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Number 2, it can't be a mere reading of the trends. Okay, this was not a reading of any trend.
Right. Was it normal for them to cast lots for clothing? I mean, this guy. Well, think about this. I mean, I think the reason they did it was Jesus had become so famous at that point that it was like, hey, look, we got this famous guy up here. Maybe we can keep something to remember us of this occasion.
Yeah, that, or they tradition says they had wrapped him with a purple robe, and purple clothing back then was expensive. So that was possible too. But number 3, it deals with human contingencies that are normally unpredictable.
Right.
This is all about human behavior.
Yes.
Number 4, scientific predictions can't count. This wasn't scientific. Number 5 was a highly unusual event, not normally expected by the length of time in advance it was predicted or the unique way it was fulfilled.
Right.
This is definitely fulfilled in a unique way. His enemies who killed him are gambling for his clothing, and it was predicted hundreds of years before it happened. So that's pretty. Now let's just compare this to the Quran, because maybe you're thinking, okay, but all religions have prophecies. Right? Last week we looked at Nostradamus and we compared it. This week, let's compare it to the Quran.
Okay.
All right. This is Surah 30, verse 2. It
says the Romans will be defeated.
Okay. But what's the deal? This is not very specific.
Right.
It doesn't. I mean, saying the Romans will be defeated is specific.
Actually,
but
rather than this being a prophecy, it should have been like, this is an inevitability.
Exactly. It's inevitability.
Governments rise and fall. The Romans will be defeated. Period. Okay, so we got to wait around for that to happen, right? Yeah. Because that's the eventuality of things.
That's right. And so this is inevitability, not a prophecy.
Right.
But this is the type of prophecies you find in other holy books. It's just, someone's going to be defeated. Well, when and how? Everyone's going to be defeated. The Hindus have this same prophecy. It's talking about waiting for Messiah, and the Hindus give some sign of when he'll appear. Okay, this is the prophet.
Okay, it says petty-minded people will conduct business transactions, and merchants will be dishonest. When wasn't that the case?
Exactly. When was that not the case? Hello. So that's kind of weird. Here's another one.
In that age, people will be greedy. They will take to wicked behavior. They will be merciless, indulge in hostilities without any cause, unfortunate, extremely covetous for wealth and women.
Indeed, indulge in hostilities, wicked behavior, be greedy.
This is a proud day.
Okay. Right. How does that match our miraculous prophecy list?
Well, you want to talk about human behavior? That's human behavior. I don't care who you are. We are born into this life of sin, and that's just the way people act.
That's not a prophecy. That's normal. But okay, here's another huge prophecy, and this one wasn't even. This is about Christ. This is from the Bible. This wasn't even recognized until after Christ died, but it's amazingly accurate. Okay, you want to talk about specific prophecies? This is Daniel chapter 9. Okay, so this is from the Bible, and this was written, again, hundreds of years before Jesus was born.
This one's really long, so it looks really specific.
It's very specific. Now, you're going to... Okay, I'm just giving you a warning, listener. You're going to hear this, and you're going to be like, this is really long. I don't understand what it's talking about.
This is where all the math comes in. All right.
This is some math, okay?
Yes, and you cannot disprove math.
Okay, so listen.
Okay, 77s.
Okay, now, there was the first part. Those are years, okay? 77s.
Okay, are decreed for your people and your holy city to finish transgression, to put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up visions and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know and understand this. From the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem.
Okay, from when they issue the decree to rebuild Jerusalem.
Until the time.
Until the anointed one, the ruler, comes. I'll read this verse.
Thank you.
You lost your ability to read in a tragic accident 10 seconds ago.
Okay, the anointed one, the ruler comes. There will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens.
Okay, so from the time they issue a decree until the time the Messiah comes are 7 sevens and 62 sevens.
Right. It will be rebuilt with streets and a trench, but in times of trouble. After the 62 sevens, the anointed one will be cut off and will have nothing.
After 62 sevens, okay, the Messiah is going to be cut off.
Okay.
All right, now listen to this. There's more to this verse. We're just going to stop it right there. Earlier in the chapter, Daniel talks about how he's thinking about how the years God is prophesying. So this is about years.
Right.
Okay, it states that after Jerusalem's rebuilt, there will be 7 sets of 7 years and 62 sets of 7 years. Then the Messiah will die. All right. 7 sevens is
49.
okay. And then we already figured this out with the calculator. 62 sevens is
434. We didn't use a calculator for that one. That was all in my head.
right. Together, that adds up to
483 years
after the temple is rebuilt until the Messiah dies. Now, the temple was rebuilt in 444 BC.
Okay.
And Jesus died in 33 AD. Now, what's the difference there? How many years apart is that?
477.
Oh, it's not the 483 years that was predicted.
It was wrong.
It was wrong. Oh, why are we sharing this? Because, wait a minute, the Bible in the Old Testament there, the Israelites were following a lunar year, not a solar year like us. That puts them 5 days different than us every single year.
Right.
Over 477 years, that equals out to an additional 6 years. 477 plus 6 is
483.
Exactly. So it was exactly 483 years from the time the temple was rebuilt until Jesus died.
Wow.
Talk about specific.
That is.
The Bible prophesied the exact year that the Messiah was going to die, and that was the exact year that Jesus died.
Wow.
Hello.
That blows your mind.
Combine that with everything we learned last week, like it should be pretty clear that Jesus really is the Messiah. Now we're going to go ahead and answer a Bible contradiction and get that out of the way for this week.
Bible contradiction.
All right, this week's Bible contradiction is from 101 Clear Bible Contradictions from IslamAwareness.net.
Okay.
This will be the number 4 on their list. It says God sent his prophet to threaten David with how many years of famine? It says 2 Samuel 24:13 says 7 years. 1 Chronicles 21:12 says it would be 3 years. So there's a difference there between 2 Samuel and 1 Chronicles. 2 Samuel saying 7 years, and then 1 Chronicles saying 3.
Okay, this is a good question. The NIV version of the Bible, if you read it, it's actually not going to say 7 years like this suggests.
Okay.
If you read the NIV, it says, "So Gad went to David and said to him, so shall there come on you 3 years of famine in your land, or 3 months of fleeing, or 3 days of plague?" Okay, so the NIV actually translates this with the number 3 instead of the number 7 in 2 Samuel, which would match the number 3 in 1 Chronicles. So they have the same number. So what's the deal? Is the NIV just going, uh-oh, there was a mistake, let's cover it up.
Yeah, we better cover it up, because if we don't, then people will think it's false.
No. Okay, there's a footnote. If you look in the Bible, there's a footnote. And at the bottom, it says the Septuagint. Okay? Hebrew, 7. In other words, there's manuscripts. Okay? Our cracked acronym helps us solve these Bible contradictions.
Right.
The E stands for early meaning and manuscripts. And when you look at the early manuscripts, you find some variants. One will say 3, and then one will say 7. It's kind of like if you were writing a letter in your handwriting, and someone copied it, and there was a letter there that was kind of hard to read. And so I wrote the number 3 when I copied it, but someone else wrote the number 7 when they copied your handwriting, because they couldn't read your handwriting.
Right.
The meaning hasn't changed. None of the message has changed. The original writing was perfect, but some of the copies, there was an error. And guess what happened? In the Hebrew copies of this, they wrote the word 7. And all the copyists followed that. In the Septuagint version of this, they wrote the number 3. And all you got to do is compare it to 1 Chronicles and realize, oh, the number was supposed to be 3.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So you look at the early manuscripts, you know 100% for sure this was supposed to be 3. There's no question about it. Our friend J. Warner Wallace at Cold Case Christianity tells us that when you have differing witnesses, it actually helps you get to the truth sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you realize, oh, well, I've got multiple accounts, and when I put them together, 300 of them say the number 3, and 2 of them say the number 7. Well, that's probably number 3. It's really easy to figure out. So this is not a problem at all. That's the answer for Bible contradiction. It's the number 3. It's not a contradiction. It was just someone misreading some handwriting when they copied down a verse.
This show brought to you by the number 3.
Or 7.
Or 7.
TruthRevolution.tv. We're going to come right back. And if you thought that math was interesting that we did earlier,
more math,
we're going to talk about statistics. You think winning the lottery is difficult?
Right.
Try to be a messiah. Statistical probability right after this.
Truth Revolution.
And we're back. And this is the part of the show today where I know it's going to sound like it's really boring, but we're going to talk about statistics. Mm-hmm. But you know what statistics do?
What?
Statistics actually prove things. Right? No? Statistics show trends. Thank you.
Actually, I think you're right. Statistics prove things. Okay. I just wanted to mess with you.
No.
All right, so statistics do help prove things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if there's a 1 in 5 chance that you could have fulfilled the prophecies of the Messiah yourself,
Right.
then no reason to expect Jesus to be the Messiah, because billions of people could have done it.
Right.
If there's a 1 in a million chance, then hey, this is
Right.
a pretty good deal.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a 1 in a billion chance, but guess what? The chances are a lot less likely than that. The Internet Infidels wrote an article, and in that article, they said it this way.
If numerous specific and detailed prophecies in the Old Testament were found to match the life of an historical Jesus, that would provide considerable evidence in the support of the Christian faith.
Okay, and they call themselves the Internet Infidels.
Mhm.
They're not Christians.
Right?
They're atheists.
Sure sounded
usually.
like they were Christians there.
Well, they were just admitting, hey, if you could show us all these prophecies that match the life of Jesus, we'd have to believe.
Yeah,
They need to listen to this show.
they do.
I don't know why they haven't. There's the prophecies are there. I mean, they even admit if a good number of prophecies about Jesus came true, it'd be an excellent reason to believe, almost
Right.
undeniable. So we're going to get into these stats. But before we do get into the stats, there is a listener question that I think would be really important to get
All right.
to this week.
I got a question.
All right, I've got an emailed question from a listener. It says, I listen most Sundays, and I like the way you gentlemen answer questions.
Thank you.
You're gentlemen,
He
man.
called us gentlemen.
Yeah, I do believe, but I enjoy questioning and discussing. It seems often that when a fellow wants to question and discuss matters of faith, others assume he wants to convert them to the dark side or something,
Yeah.
or he's questioning their very beliefs, etc.
Yep.
Often you'll get responses like, because that's the way it is. You fellas don't shy away from tough questions, and you don't say things like, because that's the way it is. I respect that.
Thank you. Before you get into the rest of it, I appreciate that too.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to know. I do get immensely frustrated when someone holds a belief just because they've always believed
That's
it.
the way it is.
And and you start to show that there's not really good rationale for that, and they get angry and well, you just have to believe. And I just have to believe what?
Right.
Your tradition for no reason?
Yeah, that's one thing. The Bible, God gave you a brain. If he just wanted you to believe, we wouldn't have this big, massive brain in our heads.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That's right.
Okay. So he goes on to say, let's review what we know about Satan, or more accurately, what I know about Satan. Red guy resides in hell, the master of lies, very clever. He'll promise you anything to get your soul, likes pitchforks, etc. And what I know about hell, real hot, always burning, no rest, eternal torment, etc. Satan runs things in hell, right? He's the prince of darkness, sits on a throne in hell with all kinds of horrible demons hanging around him. I'll finally get to the question. If Satan's entire goal is to negate God and Satan is in charge in hell, why doesn't he make hell a wonderful place? I'm talking 5-star resort. God can no longer threaten anyone with an eternity in hell if hell is so darn wonderful. And I know Satan promises you such things to get you to do wrong, etc. In my hypothetical, Satan is being sincere. And I know Satan is incapable of being sincere, etc. But in this case, he's made an extra special effort to do what he said he would do, knowing that it would ruin things for God. What happens then?
Awesome question. Awesome
That is really, it's a fun question.
Yeah, it is fun. Okay, so one time, Jesus was actually teaching about what would happen if people didn't know him, or people didn't care about Jesus, they didn't believe in Jesus. And basically the answer was they would go to hell. But in this story, he's giving a picture, and he says, okay, the sheep are going to be on my right,
Okay.
and the goats are going to be on my left. And he says the sheep are the people from my pasture, and the goats are like those, well, what are goats good for?
Right.
Disgusting milk. And so biblically, goats are like the creatures going to hell. And so he says in Matthew 25, this is what we read when Jesus is talking to the goats on his left. He said, then he will say to those on his left, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. I was hungry, you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me nothing to drink. Okay, right there's this massive, massive picture, at least what Jesus tells us hell was for. Who did he say hell was prepared for?
Satan and all those that follow him.
Yeah, the devil and his angels. Okay, in that verse, we find out that hell is not actually where Satan's in charge. Like we get these Hollywood versions of Satan, carrying, like you said, carrying the pitchfork and being angry and like selling your soul, and now he owns it and he's in charge down in heaven. I like to read the Far Side comics. And, Satan's always in charge down there.
Right.
Yeah, there's this one where he or a demon is standing and there's a plaque on the wall and they're looking at all the people and it's like, today is the first day of the rest of your life. It's just like down in hell. It's like, oh no. But actuality, Satan's not in charge.
Right.
He's not in charge in hell. It was eternal fire prepared for the devil is what it says. So God makes this fire, which is metaphorical. It's extremely awful punishment. And he made it to punish Satan with. Satan's not in charge of hell. He is the recipient of God's anger in hell. Revelation 10, chapter 20, verse 10 says this.
It says, the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. They will be tormented day and night forever and ever.
There you have it. He's going to be tormented.
Right.
In fact, Jesus makes it clear that he's the one in charge of hell. In Revelation 1:18, he says, I hold the keys of death and Hades.
Woohoo!
I hold the keys, right?
Right.
So rather than being in charge of hell, Satan's the one who will suffer the most. And Jesus is the only one who's in charge of our eternal destination. He's in charge of what hell will be like. He's in charge of whether or not you or I receive God's anger or not. What you have to do is you have to accept that Jesus has offered forgiveness for you,
Right.
and make him Lord of your life. This is what we're called to do by Jesus. Okay, believing brings forgiveness into your life, and making him Lord brings us regeneration into your life. Read Romans 10. It's really important stuff. Okay, so hell is the place where God's anger is released, and Satan will be the biggest recipient of that.
Right.
And because it was prepared specially for him. Humans only end up there because they've rejected God.
Right.
Jesus offers you forgiveness, and if you don't accept it, that's why you go to hell, because you've rejected Jesus' forgiveness.
Right.
Some of you think you're not making a choice. Not making a choice is making a choice.
Right.
That's like say, hey, come into the building. There's a storm coming. I think I'll wait out here, but I'm not making a choice.
Right.
No, you're making a choice
right?
to stay in the storm.
Yeah.
Okay, the fire's coming. You're making a choice if you don't choose Jesus. So the way out is to believe and accept what Jesus has done for us.
Amen.
Good question. That's the answer for that question.
I got a question.
All right, back to these statistics.
Okay.
We only got 4 minutes, Dave.
We better talk fast.
All right, odds of having twins.
1 in 50.
Odds of winning the California lottery.
1 in 41.4 million.
And actually, we did this with that. I think odds of winning Powerball is like way lower than that now.
Yeah.
But anyway, odds of winning the California lottery is that 1 in 41 million. Being killed on a bus ride.
That'd be 1 in 500 million.
Dying on an airplane.
1 in 4.6 million.
Winning 2 lotteries in one day.
1 in 24 billion.
With a B, as in baby. Whoa, baby, you won billions. 24 billion. Okay, how do these compare to the prophecies that Jesus fulfilled?
Well, Jesus fulfilled at least 191 prophecies.
191. Now, we can't measure all those, right? How do you measure the odds of being born of a virgin?
I think, what are the odds?
Yeah, we don't really. I mean,
how many people have been alive? That'd be 1 in that many.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. Okay, so mathematicians calculated the probability of fulfilling not 191 prophecies, but just 48 of those.
Right, and that's less than half of those.
Yeah. So just the odds that you could fulfill less than half, than a third of the prophecies Jesus fulfilled. It would be 1 in 10 to the 157th power. Say that again.
1 in 10 to the 157th power. That's 157 zeros, folks.
Yeah, just to give you a picture, a billion has 9 zeros.
Right.
A billion has 9 zeros.
And this is 157.
Yeah. Okay, what does this mean? Let's add up all our statistics. I'm going to throw a few other things in there just for fun. All right, the odds that you're going to win the state lottery, and then you go home to find that you just had twins. Okay. And then you die in a bus ride to another state where you win that state lottery also. And when you phone home, you realize your wife just had quadruplets.
Oh, yeah.
And then you go outside to rejoice. You see the world was just hit by a seriously damaging meteor from outer space.
Oh, no.
That is about 1 in 10 to the 30th power.
Wow.
30th.
Yeah. So that's 30 zeros.
30 zeros compared to 157 zeros.
Well, let's add some more things on there and see if we can get there. We'd be here all night, seriously.
Yeah, okay. The difference between $1 and $1 million is 6 zeros. Only 6.
Right.
What can you buy with $1?
Hardly anything anymore.
A trinket?
Right.
what can you buy with $1 million?
Not as much as you used to be able to, but you can buy a lot.
You can buy a ton with $1 million.
Couple nice
okay,
cars.
let's say $1 billion. The difference between $1 and $1 billion is 9 zeros. A dollar gets you almost nothing. $1 billion
Get you set and your family set.
You and your
right?
family and your extended relatives and your children and your grandchildren
Right.
and your children's children would be financially set for their entire lives. The difference there is 9 zeros. The difference here between all these insane things happening and
Right.
fulfilling even half the prophecies is 127 zeros.
Right. Think about this. Every time you add a zero, that's basically exponentially raising the chance or lowering the chances by 10.
The odds that you could fulfill 48 prophecies is 1 in 10 to the 157th power.
That's crazy.
That is insane. You just there is no way you're actually going to do this on accident. Okay? This does not happen on accident. This means only God could have made the circumstances come together
Amen.
in the person known as Jesus Christ. He was the one who was raised from the dead. All right, now, next week we're going to finish this. So that's another reason we know the Bible's from God.
Right.
It predicted it, and Jesus fulfilled it. So that could not have been an accident. All right? Unless you think you can win 20 lotteries all in the same day.
Right. And if you think you're that person, come talk to me.
Right.
We're going to be best buds.
And next week we're going to get into, okay, so there's another reason that we can believe the Bible is true, and that reason is Jesus said so. Now don't roll your eyes. I know
Okay.
you're all thinking that is not a good reason. We believe in logic here, and I'll show you why next week.
Okay.
You're going to have to come back next week. TruthRevolution.tv and Revolution Church, we'd love to have you no matter what you wear. Come on out.